I'd like to introduce Dr. Robert Britting, actually, and Robert's got a really interesting background and obviously quite a diverse and long, or I should say, many years of experience in the pharma executive and healthcare commercial world in general. So Robert's going to be interesting kind of presentation that Robert's going to be sharing with us this morning, following on nicely from Angela's, is leading without authority. So lessons learned from the campaign trail of the mayor's office and the pharmaceutical boardroom. So a little hint in the title there. Robert is a former mayor of one of the towns in central New Jersey, so he's got obviously a experience in the political sphere. But there's a lot of tangible anecdotes and lessons that he can share on how this relates to commercial teams, pharma marketers, and obviously the challenges that we all face in this room. Now, Robert's obviously claim to fame again is he was a former mayor, and he's the current and he's currently part of Hillsborough, New Jersey. You know what? Township. Yeah, I will leave it to him because I don't want to cut into any more time. But if there's any questions and comments at the end, please do raise your hands, and we'll hop around with the mic. And please join me in welcoming Rob as our next speaker this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Nice to see you. I think it was a really good presentation. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how you present next year too, because I think AI is going to really blow up. So the one thing I would just follow up on this is, if you don't find a way to get involved with AI now, you're making a huge mistake. The one thing that I see with AI, just to finalize, I wanted to make a comment, but I didn't want to stop your presentation. Make yourself smarter by using AI. You don't have to use AI to create stuff. You can make yourself smarter because you can ask it questions and it will challenge you. For those that different generational thinking of it, I think it's really important. So again, my name is Robert Britting. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for about 24 years. Worked across all commercial functions, from sales to marketing to training to patient services to general management, running franchises, chief of staff for presidents at AstraZeneca, Novartis, Teva, GSK, and I run my own consulting company now. It's been a very, very fun journey, but I thought I knew what I was doing in leadership positions, because they know in pharma, they move us around every 18 months, every 24 months, they want to keep moving. Everyone's got a ton of breadth of experience, but nobody has depth, and I think that's a major problem. So we're going to talk a little very frankly today about a couple different things. And I start off with leading without authority because I think that's been a buzzword since the late 90s, early 2000s that we don't talk about enough, and I think there's an opportunity to take some experiences that I had outside of pharma, in the political world, sometimes controversial, and apply it to a more professional setting and just share some of those learnings with you. And in this presentation, I'm not speaking at you, I'm sharing with you what I learned, okay? So take it that way. All right, so I actually thought I knew leadership until I ran for office. I had no clue what leadership was until running for office. I have 3 little boys, Robbie, Christian, and Grayson, 10, 8, and 4. I started my political career 3 months after my wife got pregnant. She wasn't happy with it. It wasn't expected. There were some changes that happened on the one side of the party that I'm a part of. They asked me if I would get involved. I thought I would be a township committeeman. I ended up becoming the mayor 2 years later and winning an award from Congress for transparency. So it was a really great opportunity. And the reason I won it was not because I was great. It was because I put everything out on the table. I started creating videos. I took the proverbial, what everyone thinks is that the Wizard of Oz curtain, and just ripped it down and showed everybody what was behind me, which was next to nothing. And it was just raw local stuff that was going on, trying to fix roads, making sure we protect the police, protect people, all that good stuff, all the good things that we need to support to make sure a town is good. So I've had a lot of years' experience, but nothing prepared me for what you learn in the political spectrum. So corporate leadership, absolutely true, is about execution. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have. One thing I learned about politics, it's about influence. And I think if you can take your execution mindset in your corporate life and apply an influence mindset, you will be even better. You talked earlier about PRA teams, however we're talking about the review groups. It's not executing for them, it's influencing them to think a little bit differently. So that's just a bridge example. But influence is really, 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 really important. And you can see some of these images are used from AI. My own presentation, brought it in there, made the presentation even nicer. So use it for your advantage. It's a good thing because I think the visuals are good. I'm not expecting you to read all of this, but the whole idea is this top section up top is the same skills that build companies, build communities. It's the same thing. And that's really important. I'm going to try to bring some things together for you. You can see I have a lot of years of experience. You can see what I talked about earlier about my experience on the township. I've had to fight to get roads. I had to go right at it with the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy. He and I were not friends up front, but now we're buddies. We're okay. He wasn't getting a road done. I went to town with him and was on the front of the newspaper and across the state going for it and got a lot of things done. We had to preserve thousands of lands of open space. Our town has 40% preserved open space. Not many towns have that. We wanted to make sure there was this big warehouse sprawl. I don't know if you live in these areas now where these warehouses are popping up and taking over land. I fought against that. So in the end, you could see, no matter what side you're, if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat, the issues that I just addressed, they impact everybody. Right? If you make it about partisan or if you make it about yourself, you lose, just like in your professional life. If you make it about the common good for your group, your team, your brand, your product, the patient, because we don't talk about that anymore in our industry. You talked about it, which was great. But our industry talks about driving demand, which we have to. The higher, depending on what your level is too, the higher you are in the triangle, it's a little lonely up there because there's less of them. But the higher you go, the higher they have to talk about profit. Because if they don't, the business can't exist for everybody else to operate to help patients. But we have to find a way to keep pushing that patient conversation up because that will actually altruistically drive your business the most. And research does show that. Also too, side note from the earlier conversation research, celebrity influencers are losing influence because they are getting too political. That is something that is happening. So there's trust that's being challenged, not only in the pharma business, we're very low, 37% as you mentioned, but it's also the celebrity side too, and they cost millions of dollars, and it's tough when you're costing a lot of money and people aren't trusting. So AI may actually be the bridge to getting everything back to kind of normal if we can get it there, right? So I'm gonna do a couple lessons for you guys, and I'll power through them because I have about 30 minutes, and we can always leave this presentation for you. Simon can send it out if you'd like. So elections are about customer acquisition. So the whole point for this slide is to say the last part. Campaigning is the purest sales process I've ever experienced. And the next slide I believe I'll be talking about is knocking on people's doors and talking about different focus groups. But this really is customer acquisition. Everything you do in your business needs to be about acquiring a customer. That has to be everything that you do. Even if you're in patient services. I ran patient services for Novartis. Even though you can't really measure everything in patient services on paper, the P&L has to see if a patient's on therapy from day 1 to day 365, they're going to make more money as an organization, right? That's how they have to measure it in the end. But everything you do has to be about customer acquisition. If it becomes about, ooh, this website makes sense based on what my competition is doing, you've literally just taken everything that you're supposed to do and pushed it to the side. It has to be about acquiring a customer. If you always have that as the North Star, you'll be more successful as an organization. And you'll also be able to altruistically and positively impact people. And that's what we're trying to do. So the next one, here we go. Next one, all right, so this is every door was a focus group. Now, my father was a second-generation madman on Madison Avenue in the agency business, ran the FCB building a long, long time ago. And I was a little boy, I would sit at the boardroom, and I'd watch people come in and out, throwing the flask back, put a little bit in the coffee, and it was legit. That's how it was in the early 80s. And I remember he ran a market research team, and they were presenting something to him. I may have been 6 or 7 years old, and he got up and he walked out of the room. Never forget that. I was like, he just walked out of the room. So why? He said, because they told me the 5 people that told them what they needed to know was the way we needed to go. And he said that wasn't enough, and they wanted me to believe it. So it was an interesting thing. So when I knocked on people's doors, I picture each of these boxes as one different house, all right? And I talked to different people. That one person that you talk to has a sphere of influence of at least 30 or 40 people. You have to not take it with a grain of salt, but you have to say, okay, this is what this person's truth is. You go to the next door. That's what this person's truth is. Go to the next door. That's what this person's truth is. If you can find, and you're talking to a fellow PhD, a common theme across all 3, you actually have your truth, right? So when you have market research within your organization, challenge it. Try to bridge some of it together and not just believe one study that says this is what it is. Go back the last year or 2 and look and project out and say, what do these other studies also say that we should focus on when it comes to our customer acquisition? Because that will give you your themes that you need to focus on. The truth is right in front of you. You just have to look a little bit harder. And that's what's great about AI. Throw it into AI, use your Microsoft Copilot AI, whatever it is, and see if it can find themes. And I guarantee it'll find at least a few. All right, so next. This is the big one. And I love this show, Mad Men, because my father was in it. I started in the agency business. This was a great scene. A great, great scene. So, I'm forgetting her name as the Peggy. Peggy was the best. I love her. She's my favorite character. She was getting frustrated. She was a copywriter. She made her way up. She broke through the barriers, and she said, "And you never say thank you." And he screamed back at her because that's what the money's for. And that's one thing I learned in the political world. Nobody owes you anything. And that's the big thing. You can't go into situations. This is more of a kind of a personal awareness opportunity, being a person that's worked his way from the lower sections in the pharma industry and worked my way up to the higher sections. Nobody owes you a damn thing. And that's really important to understand. When you go into your review with your manager, don't expect them to give you a good review. And don't expect just because you did great, you're going to get what's next. You can't take it personally. The business is going to operate with or without you. Your customers are going to move on with or without you. And that's something that I think I threw this in the middle of it because this actually is my favorite one, and you'll see it come to fruition at the end, because I think our industry, we've been so what's the word? I don't know, conditioned to think that everything we do is great, right? And it's not all the time. And you have to be okay with that. And it's just a personal motivation piece that I wanted to get that point across, and that's one of my favorite scenes from any show that I've watched. I think it was great, because it's very true, and I tell my boys the same thing. They expect good things. I'm like, you got to earn it, pal. I got 3 boys. I don't take any crap from them, my wife and I, right? They got to learn. They got to do the right thing. So I was the mayor in Hillsborough when all the drones were going right over my town. I'm not kidding. I have the text messages. Phil Murphy and I went back and forth, the governor. I will not show you what they are, but he and I went back and forth about the drones and about what to do and all that good stuff. It was chaos. Now, how do you handle yourself? How do you mitigate potential chaos? And that's the key, leading through crisis. Now, your companies are always going through so much crisis. You don't even see it. Your patients are going through so much crisis. Your teams are going through constant crisis. And it might not be a big deal one day, but the next day might be huge. They might be thinking, oh, excuse me, I think I pressed, somebody's playing with that thing back there. I'm not touching anything. You guys moving that forward? You guys moving forward a bunch. All right, so they may be going through a lot of different things. So each level of crisis is a different item. So the one thing I learned in this situation was huge. I had people, and we even had bots online going and talking about these drones and saying they're aliens, and it was the government, and it was uranium, and it was crazy stuff. And so I get on the phone, I talk to the governor, we have a very calm conversation, I recognize everything's cool. And I'll leave it at that. So the main thing that I put out in these videos that I got the Congressional War for Transparency was safety. And I talked with somebody on the other side of the political aisle who was a local assemblyman, and we got together, and we put some messages out together, say, everybody chill out. Everything is fine, all right? Safety is our number one priority, and we showed them all the different things we were doing with the police, the emergency management groups, and what it was doing was getting people to stay calm. So what did I learn from this that you can apply to pharma into big business? Being incredibly transparent when things are chaotic. If you respond with chaos, everyone around you will go crazy. Take a step back and realize it could be a whole heck of a lot worse. Look around the world and chill. All right? That's the key. That's the real big thing. This was a really fun experience, too. It was a lot of stressful nights. But that one. All right, number 5. Just a few more slides. So, different arena, same stakeholders, same dynamic. When you're thinking about looking at, I challenge you to watch your CNN or your Fox, whatever side you're on, whatever it is. Or if you really want to be in the middle, watch C-SPAN, because you'll get it right out of what they say and you'll fall asleep. Right? So look at the political world and try to apply the different players in the political world to the world that you live in now. People at different levels, people with different opinions. And you'll be able to start to think about, this personality operates this way, but they're the same in this way. So the real key is this. When you look at this, when I learned that my voters and the people that had to vote for me, I treated them the same way that I treated my patients, altruistically. I listened to what they had to say. That was the real key, is not telling people what to do. And I think the pharmaceutical industry is making a huge mistake. And I think what we've been doing over the past 5 to 7 years is telling people what's what versus taking a step back. And I haven't seen a commercial yet that comes out and says, no, we listened to our patients and our patients told us this, so we're responding with that. Those are the types of things that I think we need to start to think about. And that's something that I learned big time from the political world. It was very important because the trust and transparency are everything, everything. All right. What do we have here? All right. The mayor has very little power. So your local mayor, your local committee people, they have a lot less power than you think. And I'll just use New Jersey as an example, right? So if you think the mayor creates law. A mayor creates no law whatsoever. The state of New Jersey creates law. The mayor and their committees and the councils create ordinances that interpret the law through legal means. So the power isn't there. So think of yourself there. Here's the thing. A senior director has less power than you think. That level in a pharma, if you're a vendor or if you're in the pharma business, that triangle's here. Senior director is kind of the higher level up here, but in charge of a lot of things. That person makes a lot of decisions. But I can tell you one thing. The vice president, senior vice president, and the people that report into the senior vice president are making decisions on behalf of that senior director every day. And the one thing I learned in politics that I also apply in my professional life is how can you empower the people around you? How can you empower your customer? How can you empower your client, especially those of you who are vendors? So if you come to me and I say I'm on the commercial side and you're trying to sell me a concept, Benji back there. Benji runs was it AI, right? OOAI, right? It's a great, I don't know, you learn about it. It's a great consumer video thing. I used to work with him at Teva. He's a great guy. So imagine if Benji's coming into me and I am the consumer head for a major pharmaceutical company. And Benji just comes into me and provides me what his process could be and what the product could be like and how it could be good for his customer. But he doesn't actually help me sell it internally. I guarantee you I'm going to fail because it's a new concept that nobody on the review team understands how to apply to the business. So how can you go in and say, listen, I understand these are going to be your barriers. Let me help you understand why these shouldn't be barriers, and let's talk about ways to mitigate this in a conversation before you go and talk to them, or I'll be there with you. It's a really, really important thing. It's supporting the people you're asking to support you. Frankly, it's being a little less selfish, right? Naturally. That just happens with human nature. So how do you do that a little bit differently? That's something I really learned, and it was a real big thing. All right, just 2 more lessons, then we'll close out into a few others. Trust beats intelligence. That's the big thing. That's huge. And I think credibility, influence, and impact, this is more like a TED Talk slide. But in the end, trust does beat intelligence. So if you find yourself coming across, take a step back, whatever you're presenting to your customer, to your client, to your end consumer, if it's coming back that you're being intelligent and speaking to them, I guarantee you, you're probably taking it too far. Take a step back and talk about trust and credibility. Because intelligence sometimes can be taken the wrong way. All right, last one, and then we go through just a few other items. So, resilience. Resilience is a key too. And this is something that there's a number of things in the pharmaceutical industries. A lot of studies right now have looked at how the pharmaceutical industry is being perceived. We are not perceived as resilient. That's something that kind of opened my eyes. We're not considered a resilient industry. We're considered a very rich industry that pushes a message. Resiliency can be changed through action. And there's an opportunity through your marketing efforts to show resiliency, to say, listen, we have gone through many different times, like COVID. We've gone through times where the hepatitis outbreaks have happened. I just work for GSK, and I work for the vaccine side of the business. What we did in certain markets, and this was a way of showing resilience, was when the hepatitis outbreaks happened in certain areas, we went to those areas, micro-segment into those areas, and said, this is what we're doing to show that we're listening to the market and we're reacting to it to try to help you get the medication that you need and the support that you need. That shows resilience, all right? That's a really important thing, and that's the big thing in the political world is resilience as well, too, because you're getting hit left and right. I mean, my name gets dragged through the mud sometimes in my local area in central New Jersey all the time. But I do a lot of good things too, so you handle that. You gotta show resilience. And your customers, in this case, my constituents, appreciate that because they're expecting me to stand up for it and stand up strong. All right. All right. So the 5 skills that matter most. So this is the big one. The first one is influence. The last 4 make sense. Trust, communication, resilience, and service. Influence is everything. If I can have you take away one major thing, execution is the item that we're focused on as an industry, and influence is the area in where we need to go. And I think the first presentation on AI can actually really open your eyes to how you can better influence, because AI is the way to asking basic questions and deeper questions to what your problems might be. So if you put something into AI that Angela was talking about, help me figure out the strategy for this major segment, and AI comes back and says, listen, your strategy should be this based on these references. What you should say, thanks for that, but that's not a good enough answer. Talk to it like it's someone you're not happy with. And say, well, you know what, break that down further for me. I don't appreciate the way your tone, or you can even say your tone in this, or the way you came across. And the AI will continue to break it down. Like my children, my son Christian, my middle guy who's 8 years old, he has to wear hearing aids. He was born with 30% hearing loss in a dead quiet room, so in a room that's talking 50, 60%. He asks the question why constantly. I mean, I've never met a person who asked the question why more than anyone, but I frankly think, love him or hate him, he's gonna be more like an Elon Musk than any of my other 3 kids, because the kid's a smart dude. He's gonna be my little engineer, asking that question why. And I think that's how AI can make you a better influencer in your job, and also with the marketing strategy that you're gonna put forward. And that's the other thing. You are a marketing strategist even if you don't work for a large company. So leadership framework, I'll leave this for you as well too. This is just a high level item. It's really about building a legacy, and I'm talking about from a political standpoint and also professional standpoint, leaving a legacy with your customers. I worked for Teva Pharma for a long time. Anybody know what the major brand was for Teva prior to, not just generics, was the big brand? You know? Copaxone was the biggest drug they had. And Copaxone was so profitable that they were able to launch become the generic juggernaut that they are now because they were able to use Copaxone profits to build that generic business, right? So that legacy is in the hearts and the minds of their customers, and they remember that. And that's something that you need to look at your major customers as well too, or your company itself. What is the company's legacy? Go back to that legacy and make sure your customers understand what it is because you get better loyalty. All right. So this is the last one I wanted to put on there, and the reason I put that on there was to just show, the most important piece is nobody owes you anything in this world. And I think that's the one big thing that I learned getting into local politics and applying that to my real job, is that nobody owes you anything. You can see I have pictures of my family, who he didn't win, but he was the second in the race. Jack Chitterelli was the one that swore me in when I was the mayor. And you can see you have to think about what matters to you when you show up to work every day and when you're applying. And that's why I put family on there, because that's the number one thing to me. And I thought this was just a good way to end it with nobody owes you anything. So leadership is a choice. So the one thing I will say to you too is, and I know this is kind of off the conversation, but I just was thinking about this on the drive-in, and this is one of the biggest challenges you see. So who here works in the commercial space in pharma? Who's in the manufacturing side? Two guys, all right. So 3 guys, all right, 3 people. All right, so you have your manufacturing people, and then you also have everyone else, the vendor, right? In the vendor side of the business, pretty much, right? Yeah. So on the manufacturing side, I would really challenge these groups too. If you have people who are really good at executing, don't force them into a leadership role if they don't want to go into it. Sometimes you need people that are really good at the basic job that they like to do. And I think that's really important too. Make sure that the choice is that person's choice for leadership. So hopefully this made you think a little bit, open up your eyes a little bit to a couple different things related to how you can connect the political world and connect the professional world. It's my first time doing this presentation on this concept, but I think there's a lot of things in life that need to be related. And again, I'll go back to Angel's earlier presentation. Use AI as much as humanly possible to make yourself smarter. So you motivated me on that first presentation. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Rob. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Any questions, comments before we hop on to our next session? Yes, John.
Thank you. Great presentation, and I'm going to apologize for the question ahead of time.
Go for it.
I'm dying to know the answer.
Go for it.
Were you satisfied? What was the answer? What was the deal with the drones? What was going on? Because we had them in Pennsylvania, they were in New Jersey, we had them in Florida, and I heard a lot of different stories about what they were all about. Were you satisfied with the result? What was the result? Were you satisfied with the explanation?
So, no, I was not satisfied with how the explanation was rolled out at all. I was one of the people that was invited down to Trenton to go sit there, and all the mayors sat in the room, and they didn't give us an answer, and we went home. So we wasted time, right? So that did frustrate me pretty dramatically, and the whole idea of what happened essentially died out, and we have not actually been given answers yet as to what it was. But based on the conversations I had, I don't think anybody was in any danger. So that made me feel, at least I felt comfortable with that, and I tried to project that out as much as possible without actually having an actual answer. It's a very tough spot to be in. You're expecting the world, like you're shaking your head, hey, you should be telling you the mayor, tell me, right? I don't know. How do you not know? I don't know. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting phone calls, sending text messages to people who are connected to the governor and the governor's office, still not getting answers. And half of them didn't know either, so from what I was told. So it was a very interesting situation to be able to handle not knowing, but having the responsibility. So I would say 50-50 happy with the answer. Yeah, so we still don't know.
Yes.
In the mayor example, as well as the senior director example, you talked about being between two forces, more senior leadership and then like the rest of your team that wants transparency and trust. How do you find is best to navigate those dynamics to actually push the organization forward? What are some of the behaviors and traits that you think work well?
You have to be really self-aware of the situation that you're in. because you can have people above you that no matter what you do will push down and you're just going to have to do it, or people above you that will move forward. But you also have to look backwards and forwards to see where the organization is going. I've been in multiple situations across a few different companies where I've made decisions and people above you have made decisions thinking that we had a nice path forward. But those people then were removed from their jobs or they leave and then the whole system collapses and you're actually trying to make something happen that the environment is not in. So the real answer to your question is be fully self-aware of the situation. Don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in, but be very self-aware as to how you come across. Because earlier in my career, I may not have come across the right way. Later on in my career, I've learned how to massage those conversations to be able to really get my point across, because it's less about executing and running into them saying, look what I did to help you. It's more about how can I influence this situation and influence people. So whenever I have team members that work for me, I am a servant leader. I work for them, and I truly live that. You probably heard that when people worked for me back at Teva. They worked, and I was pushed from my leadership to push down harder on certain things. And I pushed back on them to say, no, I want these people to lead, and all those people got promoted. So you have to be able to push back, but also be self-aware.
Right. We got two more.
Sure.
Hey, thanks so much. And thank you for asking the drone question. That was my first one.
I wish I had a better answer. I'm sorry. I wish I did. I'd like to know too.
No, I really liked how you were talking about building constituencies and the listening that you were doing there. And it makes a ton of sense, in obviously the political sphere. I was wondering where you're doing the listening in the sort of the pharmaceutical sphere in this industry.
Give me more on that. Like, what do you mean?
Well, when you're trying to build a constituency around either a brand or an idea or off-brand, marketing, whatever, where should the listening happen?
From the beginning. I think that's one thing, I tell my middle guy. He's 8 years old, loves to talk, like his dad, loves to talk. I tell him, I say, the people that talk the most are heard the least. Right, so when you're in a leadership position and you're hosting a meeting or you're having a discussion and you're running an organization, whatever it might be, even if it's a small team of people, or you start a conversation at lunch where you're trying to get information from people, if you do all the talking, people are realizing you're asking the question for your own purposes. It starts from the minute you have that conversation. It's a step back, keep your mouth shut, and listen to other people. And one thing I've learned, and we're Catholic in our house, so we went to pre-Cana, right? So I don't know if you heard that or not. You have these conversations. You hear somebody says something to you, right? My wife, when we're talking, said something to you. I say, you know what? I heard what you said. Let me play that back to you to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. And I think that's a really important thing because that shows people respect, big time. Maybe you don't do that in your personal life all the time with your friends that you're close with, but people you work with and other people, it's very important to take a step back and say, I hear what you're saying. Is this what you mean? Because I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. And that person will give you more insights. The same thing how you treat AI. Same thing. Respect it. Yeah.
Great presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Not that we have totally similar journeys, but you going from corporate to, I have not run for office and don't plan to, but then moving into the consulting world where a lot of us, like myself, are in.
Yeah.
How has transparency helped you win business? What recommendations would you have for the young bloods that are trying to tap into this space to kind of future-proof ourselves because the corporate changes are happening too much?
Yeah. Don't be everything to everybody.
Okay.
Be really good at what you're good at and make sure people know it and confidently promote that. If your company is a patient services company, be a patient services company. Be a commercialization partner. But if you're going to do HCP, consumer, packaging, operational, nobody knows what you are. You just become another agency. And they're going to go right to McKinsey. Right? That's what happens. So that's the real thing, is know what you are and be comfortable with it. Realize nobody owes you anything, like I said, and go for it. And make sure people know what you can help them with. Monetize everything, and also make everything about acquisition, patient acquisition or customer acquisition, and people will want you. It's really important. So those pharma guys, the last thing I'll say too, because I know you got to get up to the next presentation, but the biggest challenge we have with vendors when you're on the pharma space is somebody comes in and promises you the world and only delivers 10%. The person presenting to you the concept is never there for you through your whole journey. You're spending millions of dollars with them, and they're gone. That's one of the biggest problems. Finish with what you start with. It's really important.
Wonderful. Thank you for your questions. Thank you again, Rob. Excellent.
Thanks, sir.